Today we expose the truth. We will connect the dots from the reckless policies of the Federal Reserve to the predatory invasion of Wall Street and the complicit silence of the mainstream media. We will show you the undeniable proof that this crisis was not an accident, it was a plan. This is the story of how they built a time bomb inside the American dream and why, in 2025, that bomb is finally detonating. To understand the catastrophe of today, you have to understand the crimes of yesterday. This wasn't a single event. It was a three-stage plan to rig the entire system. Stage 1, the addiction, 2020 to 2022. First, they created the bubble. The Federal Reserve, the high priests of our financial system, knew exactly what they were doing. They unleashed a monetary tsunami on the world. They slashed interest rates to zero and pumped trillions of newly printed dollars into the financial system. They called it quantitative easing. It should have been called market arson. This flood of free money had to go somewhere. It poured directly into the housing market, creating the most manic, irrational buying frenzy in human history. They addicted the entire country to free money, knowing that the withdrawal would be agonizing. They didn't just build a bubble, they built a dependency. Stage 2, the invasion, 2021 to 2023. While regular American families were being pushed into insane bidding wars, a new predator entered the game: Wall Street. Armed with the Fed's free money, institutional investors like BlackRock, Vanguard, and Invitation Homes launched a hostile takeover of American neighborhoods. They deployed sophisticated algorithms to outbid families, paying all cash, sight unseen, for thousands of single-family homes. They weren't buying homes to live in. They were buying them to turn you into a permanent renter. They deliberately priced out an entire generation of homebuyers, converting the American dream into a subscription service that they own. This wasn't a market, it was a coordinated acquisition of a nation's most valuable asset. Stage 3, the propaganda, 2022 to 2024. The final piece of the trap was to control the narrative. While the Fed was printing the money and Wall Street was spending it, their allies in the media and the real estate industry became the cheerleaders of the mania. How many times did you hear it? Prices only go up. There's a housing shortage. Marry the house, date the rate. It was a relentless campaign of FOMO, fear of missing out, designed to lure the last bit of public money into the market right at the very top. They needed someone to hold the bag when it all came crashing down. And they chose you. They knew the market was a house of cards, but they kept selling tickets to the party until the final second. Part 2, the reckoning. The bomb is detonating now. And now in 2025, the withdrawal has begun. The trap has been sprung. The evidence of the catastrophe is no longer a prediction. It is a mathematical and economic reality. The dominoes are falling one by one. The affordability annihilation. The first domino was the most obvious. The Fed, having created the addiction, deliberately jacked up interest rates at the fastest pace in history. This was the kill switch. The combination of record-high home prices from the bubble and punishing 7 to 8% mortgage rates has resulted in the least affordable housing market in American history. The math no longer works. It is now a statistical impossibility for the median American family to afford the median-priced home. The buyer pool has been evaporated. This wasn't a bug, it was a feature. They needed to destroy demand to trigger the collapse. Domino number 2, the inventory tsunami. With no buyers left, what happens to all the homes for sale? They pile up. We are now witnessing a ghost inventory tsunami across the country. In former boom towns in Florida, Texas, and Arizona, the number of homes for sale has skyrocketed by 50%, 60%, even 100% in just 1 year. But it's worse than that. Zillow data has revealed a massive surge in sellers who fail to sell their homes and are forced to pull them from the market. This creates a hidden shadow inventory of desperate sellers waiting to flood the market the second they see a glimmer of hope. The dam is breaking, and a tidal wave of unsold homes is about to be unleashed. Domino number 3, the seller panic and the great capitulation. The psychological phase of the crash is now in full swing. The denial is over. Panic has set in. The clearest sign is the explosion in price cuts. In cities like Austin, Phoenix, and across Florida, nearly 1/3 of all homes for sale have had their prices slashed. This is the beginning of the race to the bottom. Sellers who bought at the peak are now realizing they are trapped. They are facing the nightmare of negative equity, where they owe more on their mortgage than their home is worth. This is capitulation. It's the moment the market's psychology breaks, and falling prices begin to feed on themselves. Domino number 4, the insurance apocalypse, the silent killer. But there is a new, more sinister element to this crash that didn't exist in 2008. The insurance industry is pulling out of entire states. In Florida, California, and Louisiana, major insurers have stopped writing new policies, citing climate risk. This is a silent, invisible market killer. You cannot get a mortgage on a home that you cannot insure. This is rendering entire zip codes of homes effectively worthless. They have become uninsurable, unsellable, toxic assets. It's a black swan event that the experts conveniently failed to mention, and it is accelerating the catastrophe at an incredible speed. Part 3. The Great Wealth Transfer. This was always the goal. So what happens next? Why would they do this? This is the final, most important piece of the puzzle. This was never just about a market crash. It has always been about a wealth transfer. Who benefits from a catastrophic crash? The people with cash. The very same Wall Street institutions that bought up starter homes at the peak are now sitting on mountains of cash, waiting. They are waiting for the foreclosures. They are waiting for the panic sellers and the bankruptcies. They will then step back into the market not as buyers, but as vultures, and pick the bones of the American middle class clean. They will buy up the wreckage of the housing market for pennies on the dollar. The homes your parents and grandparents owned, the homes you dreamed of owning, will be consolidated onto the balance sheets of a handful of megacorporations. This is the endgame, the creation of a permanent renter class, a nation where you will own nothing and they will own it all. You will be forced to rent the American dream back from the very people who stole it from you. It wasn't a conspiracy theory, it was a business plan. Conclusion: an engineered nightmare. They knew. The Federal Reserve knew that printing trillions would create an unsustainable bubble. The big banks and hedge funds knew that buying up neighborhoods would break the social contract. The media knew that cheerleading the mania would end in tears. They knew this was coming. They counted on it. The 2025 housing catastrophe is not a failure of the system. It is the system working exactly as it was designed to. It is a feature, not a bug. It is a brutal, efficient transfer of wealth from the many to the very, very few. The only question now is, what do you do with this information? While the rest of the country is still listening to the lies, you now know the truth. Prepare yourself. Protect your assets. Because the storm they created is no longer on the horizon. It is here. The Federal Reserve knew that printing trillions of dollars out of thin air and injecting it directly into the financial system would create the largest, most unstable asset bubble in human history. While they were telling you inflation was transitory, they were watching asset prices detach from reality. While they were publishing reports about a strong economy, they were modeling the exact interest rate hikes that would detonate it, all while their own members were quietly selling their personal stock portfolios at the top. The big banks and hedge funds knew that deploying billions in cash to buy up single-family homes would irrevocably break the social contract. They knew they were pricing out an entire generation, but they saw it as a calculated investment in a future where they would be the landlords of America. And the media knew. They knew that cheerleading the mania, that pushing the narrative of prices only go up, would end in tears for millions of ordinary people. But they did it anyway, because their job is not to inform you. It is to manufacture consent for the system. This wasn't just numbers on a screen. This was a calculated betrayal of the American family. The young couple who stretched every dollar, who waived inspections, who believed the lie that this was their only chance to get in. They were the target. The retiree who saw their home equity as their life savings, a nest egg built over 40 years of hard work. They were the collateral damage. The 2025 housing catastrophe is not a failure of the system. It is the system achieving its final form. It is a feature, not a bug. It is the creation of a permanent financial caste system, a neo-feudal society where the concept of ownership is reserved for an elite few, and the rest of us are relegated to being lifelong tenants on their property in their world. They counted on your confusion. They relied on your trust in the experts. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated your ability to see the truth once the curtain was pulled back. The greatest threat to their plan isn't a protest or a political movement. It's a population that is awake, a population that understands the game is rigged. The storm they created is no longer on the horizon. It is here. The time for denial is over. The time for blind trust is over. The time for awareness, for preparation, and for clear-eyed reality has begun. Outro music fades in, slow and powerful. Narration. If you see the signs of this collapse in your neighborhood, the explosion of for sale signs, the price cuts, the empty new constructions, document it, share it in the comments below. This is no longer a comment section, it is a citizen-led intelligence report, a place where we can share the on-the-ground truth that the mainstream refuses to acknowledge. This channel is more than just videos. It's becoming a digital town square for the people who refuse to be gaslit. It's a repository of evidence that exposes their official narrative as a lie. Every share is a crack in their wall of propaganda. Every new subscriber is another person who has chosen to open their eyes. The most powerful thing you can do right now is to spread this awareness. So share this video with everyone you know who feels like something is deeply wrong but can't put their finger on it. Show them they are not crazy. Show them they are not alone. The first step to navigating this catastrophe is realizing we're all in it together, and our greatest strength is our shared understanding of the truth. Thank you for watching. Stay vigilant.